is Archdeacon Janet Rodman here and ready? Janet, come on forward. I don't think I remembered to warn you in advance that I would be speaking about you in the sermon last night. And later I saw your face as you listened to me do that. Yes. Yeah. Come on up. You can say whatever you want.
Good morning. Just to reference what Bishop was saying about in his sermon last night, when my name was mentioned, I'm a little hard of hearing, but I heard my name and caught my husband's eye, and he winked at me, and I was very touched and pleased that you were able to dive into the history in our deanery. So good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Is this too loud? No, okay, right. As you know now, my name is Janet Rodman, and I'm the Archdeacon for our diocese. I myself am a vocational deacon at St. Peter's, Washington, and was ordained to the diaconate 20 years ago this coming June. I'd like to take this opportunity to give a brief update on our deacons and some things that are trending across the country with deacons. But first, most importantly, I'd like to list our active deacons, and if they're present, to have them stand here. I'm going to list them alphabetically. Rebecca Bean at St. Andrews, Goldsboro. Carol Eden at St. Andrews, Morehead City. John Gaskell, who's at Christ Church, Newbern. He's semi-retired. Pam Hayes at St. Philip's, Southport. Lisa Kirby, Christ Church, Newbern. Michael Liggins, St. James the Fisherman in Shallotte. Jean Miller, St. James the Fisherman in Shallotte. Linda Murdoch at St. Christopher's, Havelock. Mary Mac Shields at St. Joseph's, Fayetteville. Kay Swindell, who's semi-retired but still serving in Wilmington. Rhonda Thomas, she's our brand new baby deacon. She was ordained in April. Church of the Servant in Wilmington, and Bobby Weatherly, who served at the altar last night from St. Paul's, Greenville. We also have several non-parochial deacons, Susan Cucinato, Sally Learned, and Steve Skiffington. All right, thank you. As you may know, many of you that have heard me in the past at Diocesan Convention talk about the unofficial mantra that deacons have, vocational deacons have in particular. It's where we bring the church to the world and the world to the church. Can you do that with me? We can bring the church to the world and the world to the church. If you read the ordination vows for deacons found in our Book of Common Prayer, if you speak to them about their calling, and when you see them in action, you'll see for yourself how this phrase plays out. The deacons in our diocese bring the church to the world and the world to the church in a multitude of ways. Our deacons organize and run clothing closet partnerships and coat closet partnerships. They work with mental health organizations to give mental health support to the homeless and disadvantaged. They have prison ministries. They educate about and support 12-step programs for those struggling with addiction. They educate, they fight for justice and equity in healthcare. They fight for justice and equity in housing for the homeless and the working poor. They serve their local Latino communities in numerous ways. They create partnerships with school systems to support struggling students. They are in our nursing homes. They're in our shelters, in our hospitals. They lead Bible studies on the street. Then they bring those same people from all those places to you, the church, to love and to comfort and to offer hope. That's what our deacons do. This past October, I was honored to be asked to serve as a small group facilitator for the first ever preaching conference for Spanish-speaking deacons. It was presented and organized by the Episcopal Preaching Foundation, and the conference was done by Zoom, like so many of our things are done now by Zoom, over the course of 2 full weekends. The goal was to give support and help develop the deacon's unique preaching voice, particularly those deacons who live and work in Spanish-speaking countries or communities or congregations. The speakers were excellent and inspiring, as were the deacons who had to present their sermons in their small group settings. Among other things, this event inspired me to want to do something similar for our own deacons. I hope to have something set up at the end of 2023 or into 2024 where we have our own mini preaching conference for our vocational deacons. This past November, our deacons had our third almost annual retreat because COVID interrupted our annual retreat schedule. We called ourselves a disturbance of deacons. It was a good time of fellowship and learning and sharing and worshiping together. At the retreat, our first point of focus was on our calling as deacons, what that meant to us in the past and what it means to us now. We also focused on discerning our particular ministries and how we bring others, very important, how we bring others into that ministry. My favorite topic of the retreat was, as you might guess, the deacon's preaching voice. It's important for us to develop and use our voices to spread the good news and connect the good news to the world. Each Sunday, deacons read the gospel in the middle of the church, in the middle of its people, and at the end of the service, we send its people out into the world to represent and look for and minister to the rest of God's people who are hurting and suffering. It is important for us to be able to interpret the good news to the church based on the needs we see and the experience that we see out in the world. At our retreat, we also discussed a resolution that has come before General Convention this past summer. The resolution is called CO47, Establishing Compensation for Deacons. It was proposed by the Diocese of Rhode Island. The final status of it is not yet finalized, and that's in quotes, incomplete. But the gist of the resolution presented by the Diocese of Rhode Island was to compensate deacons, to pay each deacon $25 a month as remuneration, and that each parish also make the required contribution to the church pension fund. And the explanation was that the church pension fund provides resources for clergy and lay employees of the church and the churches in the Episcopal Church, including Credo, which many of our priests have attended, which is a wellness resource. The church pension fund also provides pension and retirement savings plans, health benefits, educational services that all of you know about. At recent conferences, representatives of the Church Pension Fund have stated that if deacons were paid a nominal amount, the deacons would also be eligible for these benefits. So, and I end my explanation of what that resolution is, what that resolution was about. At this point in time, there are approximately 16 dioceses in the United States that have passed resolutions supporting compensation for its deacons. A quote from the Association for Episcopal Deacons, which has shared information in a very objective way, not taking one stand or another, shares what people, what groups have said in favor of and not in favor of. In favor of is that they believe that CPF could provide more support and that a lack of these supports impede identification of vocations to the diaconate, especially among the young, those of lower income, people of color. And those not in favor of deacon compensation, and again I'm quoting from the website, hold the traditional belief that deacons gain moral credibility for their prophetic voice by serving without pay. So I want to be clear with you that I'm sharing this information with you today simply to inform the convention of what is currently a trending and important topic for many deacons and their congregations across the United States. And as you can imagine, at our deacon retreat, this induced lively conversation. But stay tuned. We'll hear more about this as time goes by. In closing, I'd like to share with you the 3 charges our deacons left our retreat with. we agreed to, first and foremost, recall and reflect on our ordination vows with regularity. Second, to discern or rediscover our unique deacon's preaching voice. And third, to discern in others and to help others discern within themselves their particular ministry or vocation or calling. This last charge is particularly important to continue our work of bringing the church to the world and the world to the church. If these words speak to your heart, I encourage you to speak with me or one of our deacons soon. God may be calling you to a very exciting new adventure. Thank you for your time.